Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend. Today is August 28th, 2023, and this is your Monday Market Update. Quick note before we get going, if next Monday comes and you don't get your Monday Market Update video fix, don't worry, it's Labor Day. So next week we'll be sending the Market Update on Tuesday. Just don't want any confusion. So let's review what happened last week and we'll preview this coming week. We went into the last week with two main events in focus and a bunch of minor events. The main events, Jackson Hole speech by Powell and NVIDIA earnings. Hold on for the update on how those turned out. Stocks gapped higher on Monday on global eco data, specifically the German PPI fell more than expected. Disinflation talk is back in the air. This helped to offset some more underwhelming stimulus from China, and even another article from the Fed Whisperer, Tim Rose from the Wall Street Journal. The article in the Wall Street Journal, normally somewhat of a mouthpiece for the Fed. Overall, the gist of the article was another angle on why the Fed may not be finished raising rates and certainly not ready to cut them. This was a headwind. The tailwind won out. As they say, we can't direct the wind, but we can adjust the sails. The big tailwind turned out to be behind big tech again. This time, Palo Alto Networks, the cybersecurity firm, and the earnings and the guidance that ignited the risk on trade into big tech again. And as we've discussed, as big tech goes, the indices go. Only 4 of the 11 sectors were positive, but the indices showed strength. Treasury yields did hit a 15-year high. It is notable, and if you want more information on that, check out the special Wednesday video last week on equity risk premium. Push and pull, this market and the signal it sends, amazing. Remember the IPO, the VinFast Vietnamese EV maker that we talked about? Down huge last week, up 70+% on Monday. At one point, excess, we'll have to see. Wage inflation in the report seemed to be slowing, but I'm not sure how. UPS just ratified their agreement. United Airlines signed a big contract giving huge raises. American Airlines follows. Instant raises for pilots of 21% immediately. Reports about the starting salaries are even rising. Average full-time offers up almost 15% in the past year. Lots of news, no clear direction. But in the end of the day, the Dow was down slightly. The S&P up about 0.75%, and the Nasdaq was up over 1.5%. Stocks opened higher on Tuesday while still following the lead of the mega cap tech stocks. As things got moving, there was little attention paid to eco data, which came in a bit disappointing, but most eyes were already focused on NVIDIA earnings that I've already mentioned. Still not due out until Wednesday after the close, but during the early hours of trading, NVIDIA hit new highs. S&P got in on the act with concerns about financials, and Fed head Barkin even got in on the action. If you needed evidence that the markets are still focused on the Fed, his comments were part of the reason for the about face of the markets. He stated, nothing new by the way, that tighter monetary policy will be required if inflation stays high. If that was not obvious, sort of like saying we'll need to leave the AC on if it stays high. Also mentioned that September was a live meeting. Again, nothing new. Overall, the markets retracted their fangs, pun intended, and gave back all the earlier gains before the end of the session. Another reason for some weakness would have been that would have to be some of the recent retailer reports. Macy's was the loudest in questioning how the consumer will hold up. Credit numbers, delinquencies, overall, this is one of the market concerns, so there was a little selling. Dow was down 0.5%, S&P down 0.25%, the Nasdaq was able to salvage a slight positive close. There are some new concerns from the center of the globe. The Panama Canal, where nearly 40% of all U.S. container traffic travels through, over $270 billion per year. There are now restrictions on traffic due to severe drought delays, soaring shipping prices, holiday goods delayed. Many blame climate change. I'll leave that to you, but these delays are something that I imagine the Fed will have to watch. Rising prices there. Will they show up inflation numbers? We don't know. If the Fed watched how Taylor Swift concerts affected local economies, I think they'll have to watch this too. Stocks did open higher on Wednesday, or as I think it came to be known as NVIDIA earnings day. Among the obvious, there was actually other news. Wells Fargo analysts dialed down big bank estimates. More damage to the financials. Retailers, not so strong. Dick's Sporting Goods, Nike, Foot Locker, those were the have-nots. The haves, pretty much anything tech. The markets were in bad news is good news mode, and this is a concern for anything but the short term. The economy's rolling over. In the short term, that may sound good for the Fed action, but remember, and I've been talking about this since the first rate hike, the Fed wants to slow this economy. This is clear. They say it over and over again. Slowing economic growth brings down inflation, or at least that's what the playbook they're working with says. Slowing down the economy also puts us in danger of a recession, but even without that, it brings down earnings. As the economy slows, the math here is simple. Earnings down, stock prices up, valuation will come back into the discussion. just not in the short term. Overall, there was so much talk about NVIDIA after the close, people may have forgotten that there was a Republican debate planned for Wednesday night, and as Friday morning, they're still slated for Jay Powell. Overall, the markets were strong, though, not too broad. Dow closed up 1%, S&P up a bit over 1%, and the NASDAQ was up over 1.5%. Stocks gapped higher on Thursday as NVIDIA and anything tech was in the crosshairs for the algos and pretty much risk on. There was some eco data, but really no one cared. There was an ugly reversal later in the day as profit taking finally hit NVIDIA 200% later, and as NVIDIA went, so went the S&P and the rest of the markets. Fed heads Harker and Collins were talking about higher for longer. And as the realization or recognition that Jay Powell was set to speak in a very important speech Friday morning, markets sold off into the afternoon, ending pretty close to the lows of the day. The Dow was down about 1%, S&P down 1.33%, and the NASDAQ was down almost 2%. There are a lot of data points around, and they are all point different directions. Just a few. Money market funds are nearly $5.6 trillion, up 18% year to date. Starting salary averages are still climbing, and if that wasn't enough, some of the big accounting and consulting firms are delaying the hires they have, and they've been paying some of them, but not bringing them on board yet. There's just no work for them now, but they don't want to give up the bodies for the future. Unions getting pay increases left and right. Airline pilots, UPS, maybe even the UAW. Add in what we'll see from the increasing wages to get people to work and the 3.5% unemployment rate. This is one of the areas that keeps the Fed governors up at night. No matter, stocks opened higher again on Friday ahead of the big speech. All indices were up about 0.5% on the open, and then there was the big wait. Powell took the mic about 10:05 a.m. Eastern. As expected, he was pretty clear. Did not threaten pain like he did last year, but he did say that inflation was too high. Markets did sell off and give back their gains for a while. Treasury yields were up, stocks were down, dollar was up. There was a little bit for everyone in the speech. I mentioned this earlier, but as he noted that the economy is not cooling as quickly as expected, this, of course, as we spoke about earlier, is good for earnings, but not so much if you're trying to bring down inflation. Other Fed heads also got into the action. Mester did not miss an opportunity and said that she is looking for more hikes to control inflation. Goolsbee said that it's too early to claim victory over inflation. Also pushed back on the idea that maybe the 2% target will have to change. Opposite of the Thursday reversal, this one went from selling to buying. The buying stepped in, or the algos, and to close out the day, the Dow was up 0.75%, S&P up around 2/3%, and the NASDAQ was up just under 1%. For a quiet week, the markets were anything but. As I told you last week, you should expect that. For the week, the Dow was down about 0.5%, the S&P up a bit over 0.75%, and the NASDAQ was the outperformer, up 2.25%. Even as the outperformers this year, the pullback was notable, but among the Magnificent Seven, as they've been called, in August through last Monday, they had lost a combined $632 billion in market cap. There is still volatility here. So let's preview the coming week, and it will quietly be a big week with lots of eco data and even a chunk of earnings. We'll have 170 more S&P 500 companies reporting earnings. Now, if you thought we were done, now you can understand how lopsided the market cap weighted index is. Monday will be a bit quiet. Tuesday we'll have JOLTS, home data, and even some consumer confidence information. Wednesday will be GDP, ADP jobs report, consumer spending, and some more data, some more home data. Thursday will bring one of the two biggest reports of the week, the PCE and core PCE. This is the main index the Fed watches, so we'll watch that too. Friday's the first of the new month, and yes, that means jobs. August non-farm payroll. This will be the focus until it's not. We'll also hear from some Fed heads, Barr, Bostic, Mester, to see where the focus is. Great segue for us. We know where the focus is. Your goals. We're about to end August, and we're going to start to see the light of the end of the year. Please engage with us as we plan for that time. More importantly, let's use this time as a time to review your goals and plans and make any necessary changes. In my opinion, the next 12 months will not be the same as the last 12 months. So will we need a new playbook? Let's talk about it and see. Come back for the Friday planning video. We'll see you then. Have a great week.